General Cardozo, could you please unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. I said welcome to the discussion, sir, and good to see you again.
Thank you, Arjun. How are we for time?
Sir, we are slightly running behind time, but please go ahead, sir. I would sort of give you a indication after about 15 minutes.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank the previous speakers for putting the war in the right perspective. There might be some amount of repetition, but I think that would emphasize what really happened 49 years ago. As compared to the West, where the strategy was offensive defense, the war in the East was offensive. That is because that is where the war started, and that is where it had to finish. The highlight of the war in the East was jointmanship. Jointmanship between the army, the navy, the air force, the Mukti Bahini, and not to forget the citizens of Bangladesh who helped the Indian army every step of the way to ensure an outstanding victory. As we soldiers saw it at that time, the political aim of the government of India was to capture enough space in East Pakistan so that the refugees, that the citizens of Bangladesh could return to their homes. However, as the war progressed with great speed, it became increasingly clear that unless the whole of East Pakistan was liberated, all the refugees might not be able to go back. So it became increasingly important to understand the video is not on. Is it on now?
We can hear you now.
Is the video on?
No, video is not on. We can only hear you, sir.
Now?
Yes, now it's on. Now it's on.
Okay. Yeah, it's on now. Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, it became increasingly clear after the war was progressing that unless the whole of East Pakistan was liberated, then all the refugees would not be able to return to their homes. And therefore, at that point of time, Dhaka became important and the race for Dhaka began. Speed. Another factor that influenced the conduct of war was speed. Yahya Khan, the president of Pakistan and the chief of the army, had repeatedly stated that America and China and the Middle East would come to the aid of Pakistan. Therefore, because the security was, if the security was threatened by India, that indicated that the war had to be wrapped up as quickly as possible. As one could see, the main players in the war was Pakistan, India, and the government of Bangladesh in exile. The supporting players was America, Russia, and China. It was not difficult to discern the aims of these players. As far as India was concerned, it was important that the liberation of East Pakistan was achieved as quickly as possible so that the citizens of Bangladesh who were refugees in India could return to their homes. As far as Pakistan was concerned, the aim of Pakistan was to destroy forever the aspirations of the citizens of Pakistan for self-rule. The aim of the Bangladesh government in exile was the liberation of their homeland from the tyranny of Pakistan. The three services and the Mukti Bahini, their aims. The Indian Army is already mentioned, initially to capture enough space for the citizens of Bangladesh to return home. Subsequently, the liberation of all of East Pakistan, including the capture of Dhaka, became increasingly important. The Indian Air Force aim was to knock out Pakistan Air Force in East Pakistan as early as possible to allow the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Mukti Bahini to operate without hindrance. The Indian Navy aim was to destroy capture all of Pakistani's naval assets, including their naval craft and the ports of Khulna, Chittagong, and Chalna, and to blockade their exit to the sea. The physical features, as has already been mentioned, in India's borders with Pakistan was approximately 4,000 kilometers. It was surrounded by the state of West Bengal to its west, Meghalaya to the north, Assam and Tripura to the east, and the Bay of Bengal to the south. To the southeast lay the Chittagong Hills, which had a common border with Myanmar. The three major rivers which flowed through East Pakistan was the Padma, Yamuna, and the Meghna. With the exception of the Chittagong Hills and Sylhet, the country was marshy. After the monsoon, all rivers became like seas, and the ground became boggy and marshy that hindered the movement of tanks and vehicles. The rivers flowed from north to south, making the crossings very difficult. The ground forces. The ground forces consisted of 4 Corps, 2 Corps, 33 Corps, and 101 Communication Zone, and the Mukti Fauj. As has been mentioned by Air Marshal Subramaniam, one of the outstanding personalities of this war was General Sagat Singh. He was the corps commander of 4 Corps, which had 3 mountain divisions and maximum rivers to cross. In addition to the 3 divisions, it had an armored elements, an independent brigade, and its objectives were Sylhet, Comilla, Chandpur sectors that had maximum helicopter squadrons and support of fighter squadrons. 2 Corps, which was commanded by General Raina, had on its orbit 2 mountain divisions, a para-brigade lesser battalion, a regiment of light tanks PT-76, a squadron of P-55 tanks, and the objectives were Janida, Jessore, Faridpur ferries, Khulna, and then Dhaka. Pakistani division facing him was commanded by General Ansari. 33 Corps, commanded by General Thapan, had on its orbit 1 mountain division, 1 mountain brigade, and its main objectives were Bogra and Rampur, and faced with Pakistani 16th Infantry Division. 101 Com Zone was commanded initially by General Gurbaksh Singh, who got wounded and was replaced by General Nagra. He had on its orbit 95 Infantry Brigade and the FJ sector, which had elements of the Mukti Bahini. The Mukti Bahini, which consisted of officers and soldiers from the East Pakistan Rifles and young people who wanted to liberate their homeland, were grouped into sectors. Initially, before the war started, they operated from the location of the BSF. Later on, when the war started, they operated in conjunction with the Indian Army and sometimes on their own. I would like to mention here that when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was told by General Sam Manekshaw that it was not possible to launch operations in April and that he would like to launch the operation sometime in November, December, Mrs. Gandhi then decided that in order to prevent the Pakistan Army from carrying out operations and its genocide, she would use the Mukti Bahini, who came up to full expectations in harassing the Pakistani army and destroying their morale. Therefore, it needs to be understood that the Mukti Bahini was operating in East Pakistan even before the war started. They operated on the lines of guerrilla warfare, destroying bridges, harassing the Pakistan army by cutting the line of communications, ambushing convoys, etc., and conducting operations that would destroy the morale of the Pakistan army and being a particular thorn in their side and making it difficult for the Pakistan army to operate freely. The strategy of General Niazi. The strategy of General Niazi, who was the overall commander of all forces in East Pakistan, was to force the Indian army to fight battles of attrition so as to impose delay till help from the Americans and the Chinese could come. He evolved a concept which he called the fortress strategy, which was based on a string of fortresses that he had created at main communication centers and built on river obstacles and protected by dense minefields. He had hoped that the Indian army would attack these fortresses head-on in battles of attrition, giving him time for outside help to arrive. The Indian army saw through his plan and resorted to mobility as their counter-strategy by avoiding these fortresses and breaking through the gaps between the fortresses and heading for interior areas and as their objectives. The main weakness of Niazi's plan was he had no reserves to counter the Indian Army thrust, with the result that the Indian Army formations broke through its defenses and arrived on the outskirts of Dhaka, by the night of 14-15 December 1971. The Indian Army had reached the outskirts of Dhaka in 11 days, destroying any opposition on the way. Western writers, who grudgingly gave credit to the Indian armed forces, compared these operations to the blitzkrieg launched by Germany against Europe during World War II. The termination of the race for Dhaka. Although I had mentioned that the race of Dhaka had started, it was, however, terminated by Delhi when the army formations reached the outskirts of Dhaka in a brief period of 11 days, because the government of India wanted to avoid street fighting on the streets of Dhaka and collateral damage to the city. 14 December was an important day in the war. That was because on the 14th of December, the US aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise, and 11 battleships arrived in the Bay of Bengal, ostensibly to rescue Pakistan from total defeat. On the 14th of December, Chief of Army, Indian Army Chief Sam Manekshaw, issued his second letter to the government of East Pakistan to surrender or face the consequences. He would issue one more letter on the 15th of December. On 14th December, the Indian Air Force launched an attack on the governor's house after it received intelligence from the governor that the governor had called for a meeting that included his main officers of his cabinet, the UN representatives, and a senior member of the International Red Cross. The air attack was launched a few minutes before the meeting. The governor panicked and the civil government surrendered on that day. Niazi and the Pakistani armed forces. Niazi, however, refused to surrender. He kept on insisting for a ceasefire and not a surrender. He had 30,000 troops at his disposal, and the Indian Army was still on the outskirts of the capital, and he hoped his interaction and message to the Americans, to the UN via the Americans Consul General, would result in a ceasefire and not a surrender. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was also insisting for a ceasefire and was to stop the war in the United Nations. In this difficult situation, Major General Jacob was sent from Headquarters Eastern Command, Calcutta, to ensure a surrender and not a ceasefire. Dhaka at that time was in a volatile state. 30,000 Pakistani troops were present, do not know for certain what was happening, and 20,000 armed Mukti Bahini forces were there wanting revenge. It is to the credit of General Jacob that he was able to use psychological pressure, convince Niazi that he had no option but to surrender. The surrender took place on the 16th of December evening. The rest is history. What we need to remember is the following. The role of the Russians, both in the UN, where they used their veto to prevent the Americans and their allies to stop the war and to initiate a ceasefire. Also, they had moved forces and nuclear submarines into the Bay of Bengal to intimidate the American fleet that would stay away from the situation. Secondly, the role of the Mukti Bahini assisted the Indian Army in many ways, as Air Marshal Subramaniam has said. They were the eyes and ears of the Indian Army when we went into operations. And also the role of the citizens of Bangladesh who helped the Indian Army in many ways. Also, the role of the foreign war correspondents who marched with the Indian Army and they gave the world a true report as to what was happening, and who praised the Indian officers and their soldiers who were gentlemen in every way. Sam Manekshaw, in his own inimitable way, when asked about what had happened, he said, long ago, when Yahya Khan and I were in military operations together before partition in Delhi, I had a motorbike, and which Yaya wanted. And I gave it to him, and he said he would give me 1,000 rupees, which he never paid, but he subsequently paid with half his nation. With regard to the battles, I said I would talk only about, due to shortage of time, the Battle of Sylhet, in which I took part. Battle of Sylhet was fought by the 4th Battalion, the 5th Gurkha Rifles Frontier Force. Before this battle started, we had already fought in Atgram and Ghazipur. In Atgram, we launched the last kukri attack in military history, where we decapitated 32 heads in that attack and decimated C Company of 31 Punjab, who went back and told the rest of their people, don't mess with the Gurkhas because you're liable to lose your head. The success of the Battle of Atgram resulted in Sagat Singh telling the CO of 4-5 Gurkhas to attack a place called Ghazipur, where another battalion had failed to capture. So we did go in, we captured Ghazipur, but by this time we had lost 3 officers, including the second in command. We lost 4 officers wounded. So we had entered the war with 18 officers, and after the first 2 battles, we were left with only 11. So the CO requested for time to reorganize his companies and the battalion, which was given. But by this time, Sagat had heard wrongly that the brigade which was holding Sylhet, 202 Brigade, had moved for the defense of Dhaka, and he wanted somebody to go and occupy Sylhet before it was reinforced. The CO protested, saying that he needed time to put his battalion together. Sagat Singh, nothing doing. I know the Gurkhas, they are best suited for this role. And so the 4th Battalion, the 5th Gurkhas, launched the first heliborne operation of the Indian Army. So we went into Sylhet, and the total strength of the battalion at that time, all ranks, was just 384. What we did not know was that in addition to 202 Brigade, 313 Brigade had reinforced Sylhet at the time that the landing was made. So now the battalion was faced with not only 202 Brigade, but also 313 Brigade and the Sylhet garrison, a total of nearly 8,000 troops in a ratio of 1:20. But thank goodness we did not know. We fought the battle for 9 days and 9 nights. At that time, the CO was skeptical about the information that 202 Brigade had evacuated Sylhet, consulted his officers and GSOs, and they decided that instead of taking food, water, blankets, and spare clothes, we take additional ammunition, small arms ammunition, and grenades. And that's what we did, because he was assured that the link-up would take place in 48 hours. As all of us know, that paradrop operations and heliborne operations, unless they are reinforced or linked up within 48 hours, those forces disintegrate due to casualties and lack of reinforcements and lack of supplies. That's exactly what happened. The point was that instead of being linked up in 48 hours, the link-up never took place till the 15th of December. That was after 9 days and 9 nights. Fortunately for Gurkhas, the British Broadcasting Corporation, which was renowned for its factual reporting, made a mistake and said that a brigade of Gurkhas has landed at Sylhet. And the Pakistanis heard it, and so did we. And therefore, we pretended to be a brigade. And when the final surrender took place, 3 brigadiers, 2 full colonels, 173 officers, 290 GSOs, and 8,000 troops surrendered to us, and we were just 352.
So may I request you to please conclude in a while, sir?
So I'll end here to say that it was a great war. It was fought with all the vehemence that the Indian forces the Indian Army could put together, and we fought a great victory. And God was with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Cardozo, and my deepest apologies for requesting you to wind up. You're an inspiration as always, and I'm sure our younger viewers who are watching this webinar will understand that what General Cardozo has just narrated is one of the finest battles that the Indian Army has fought in a situation in which they were vastly outnumbered, but managed to sort of deliver a telling blow